Welcome to the Tristan channel, your gateway to a world of fascinating subjects ranging from folklore, history, sci-fi, and the paranormal to film entertainment. Here we explore all kinds of captivating topics that will leave you intrigued and eager for more. Delve into the depths of ancient myths and legends. Unravel the secrets of historical events. Immerse yourself in the realms of imagination with sci-fi wonders and explore the unexplained mysteries of the paranormal. Join us on this exciting journey where we bring you the best of folklore, history, sci-fi, and the supernatural, all wrapped up in the enchantment of film entertainment. Stay tuned for enlightening discussions, thrilling narratives, and endless possibilities as we unravel the unknown together. This is the Tristan channel, your doorway to a world beyond imagination.
Human history is not a collection of separate, isolated stories. Instead, it is a single, magnificent tapestry woven together with threads from countless different cultures. It is like a great river, fed by many streams. Each stream represents a civilization, bringing its own unique knowledge, ideas, and discoveries to the main current. No single culture creates everything on its own. They all learn from one another, borrowing, adapting, and building upon the achievements of those who came before. This beautiful exchange is what drives progress forward, allowing humanity to reach ever greater heights of understanding and creativity. We stand on the shoulders of giants, and those giants stood on the shoulders of others in a long, unbroken chain stretching back through time. Think of it this way. When you use a number to solve a math problem, or when a doctor uses a medical textbook, you are part of this grand tradition. The knowledge you are using did not appear out of thin air. It has a history, a journey that often crosses continents and spans centuries. The story of Muslim contributions to the Western world is a powerful chapter in this global narrative of shared progress. It is a story of how a brilliant civilization not only saved ancient wisdom from being lost forever, but also added its own incredible discoveries, which then flowed westward to help ignite a new era of learning and innovation in Europe. This journey of knowledge is a testament to our shared human desire to understand the world around us. For a long time, this particular part of our shared history was not as well known as it should have been. The period after the fall of the Roman Empire in Europe is often called the Dark Ages, a time when much of the learning of the ancient Greeks and Romans was forgotten. But while Europe was in a period of relative stagnation, another part of the world was experiencing a vibrant explosion of intellectual and cultural activity. From Spain to India, the Islamic world became the world's center for science, medicine, philosophy, and art. This was a golden age that illuminated the world, and its light would eventually reach the shores of Europe, helping to pave the way for the Renaissance. Understanding this history is not just about giving credit where it is due. It is about recognizing the interconnected nature of our world. It shows us that great ideas can come from anywhere, and that cooperation across cultures is a powerful force for good. The story of Muslim contributions is an inspiring tale of curiosity, creativity, and the passionate pursuit of knowledge. It reminds us that we are all part of the same human family, contributing to the same endless river of knowledge that enriches us all. This journey through history reveals how the foundations of our modern world were built by many hands, from many different cultures, working together across the ages. Roughly between the 8th and 14th centuries, the Islamic world experienced a period of extraordinary achievement that we now call the Islamic Golden Age. This was not a time of military conquest alone, but a time of incredible intellectual and cultural flourishing. The Islamic Empire stretched from Spain in the west to parts of India and China in the east, creating a vast, multicultural society. This enormous region was united by a common language of scholarship, Arabic, which made it easy for scholars from different backgrounds, Muslims, Christians, and Jews, to communicate, share their ideas, and work together. This vibrant cosmopolitan environment became a fertile ground for discovery and innovation in almost every field of human endeavour. What fueled this remarkable era? A key factor was a deep-seated passion for knowledge. Early Islamic leaders strongly encouraged learning and sponsored the translation of important works from other cultures. They saw the pursuit of knowledge as a noble, even sacred duty. This led to the creation of great libraries and centres of learning, most famously the House of Wisdom in Baghdad. These institutions were not just warehouses for old books, they were bustling hubs of research, debate, and discovery. Scholars were actively encouraged to question, experiment, and push the boundaries of what was known. This spirit of inquiry was the engine that powered the Golden Age. The achievements of this period were vast and varied. In science, scholars made groundbreaking discoveries in astronomy, chemistry, and physics. In mathematics, they developed algebra and refined our number system. In medicine, they created hospitals, wrote encyclopedic medical texts, and pioneered new surgical techniques. Philosophers grappled with the great questions of existence, blending the logic of the ancient Greeks with their own theological insights. Meanwhile, artists and architects created breathtaking mosques, palaces, and works of art that combined beauty with intricate mathematical designs. It was a holistic explosion of creativity, where science and art were not seen as separate, but as two sides of the same coin. This golden age was a truly global enterprise. It brought together the wisdom of ancient Greece, Rome, Persia, India, and China. Muslim scholars did not simply copy this knowledge. They absorbed it, criticized it, and then built upon it with their own original contributions. They were not passive recipients of information, but active participants in the scientific process. For example, they took the astronomical models of the Greeks and tested them with new, more accurate observations. They took Indian numerals and developed them into the powerful system we use today. This dynamic process of synthesis and innovation is what made the Islamic Golden Age one of the most intellectually productive periods in human history. One of the most crucial roles played by scholars of the Islamic Golden Age was that of preservation. After the Western Roman Empire collapsed in the 5th century, Europe entered a long period of turmoil. Libraries were destroyed, and many of the great works of ancient Greek thinkers like Aristotle, Plato, and Galen were lost to the West. These foundational texts of science, philosophy, and medicine could have vanished from history forever. However, these precious works survived because they had been preserved in the eastern part of the old Roman Empire, in Byzantium, and in centres of learning in places like Syria. It was from these sources that the knowledge found a new and eager audience. Beginning in the 8th century, a massive translation movement began, centred in Baghdad. Caliphs, the rulers of the Islamic Empire, poured vast resources into finding and translating every important book they could get their hands on. They sent emissaries across the known world to collect manuscripts in Greek, Syriac, Persian, and Sanskrit. These texts were then brought back to Baghdad, where teams of dedicated scholars, including Christians and Jews, worked tirelessly to translate them into Arabic. This was a monumental undertaking, driven by a profound respect for the wisdom of the past and a burning desire to use that wisdom to build a better future. This was more than just a simple act of copying. The translation process itself was a scholarly endeavor of the highest order. The translators had to be masters of multiple languages and experts in the subjects they were translating. They carefully compared different versions of manuscripts to create the most accurate and reliable Arabic editions possible. They added commentaries and explanations to make the ancient texts easier to understand for a new generation of students and researchers. In doing so, they created a comprehensive library of world knowledge in the Arabic language, making the ideas of the ancients accessible to anyone who could read it within the vast Islamic world. Without this dedicated effort, the intellectual heritage of the ancient world might have been lost. The works of Euclid in geometry, Ptolemy in astronomy, and Galen in medicine were all saved from oblivion by these scholars. But they did not just put these books on a shelf to gather dust. They engaged with them, debated them, and used them as a springboard for their own research. They saw themselves as part of a continuous chain of knowledge, and they took their responsibility as guardians of that knowledge very seriously. Their work ensured that the flame of ancient learning was not extinguished, but was instead passed on, brighter than ever. At the very heart of the Islamic Golden Age stood a legendary institution, the Bayt al-Hikmah, or the House of Wisdom. Founded in Baghdad in the early 9th century by the Caliph al-Ma'mun, it was far more than just a library. It was arguably the world's first true international academy of science. It was a place where the greatest minds of the time gathered to translate, study, and create new knowledge. It housed a massive library, an astronomical observatory, and translation departments. Scholars from diverse cultural and religious backgrounds were invited to work there, supported by the Caliph's generous funding. This created a unique environment of intellectual freedom and collaboration. The primary mission of the House of Wisdom was to acquire and translate the world's knowledge into Arabic. But its purpose went far beyond that. It became a vibrant center for original research. Astronomers working at its observatory charted the stars with unprecedented accuracy, correcting many of the errors found in ancient Greek texts. Mathematicians developed new branches of mathematics, like algebra, which would become essential tools for science. Physicians and chemists conducted experiments, seeking to understand the natural world through observation and empirical evidence, rather than just relying on the authority of old books. It was a place where the scientific method was being forged. The atmosphere in the House of Wisdom was one of intense intellectual curiosity. Debates and discussions were a daily occurrence, as scholars challenged each other's ideas and pushed one another to think in new ways. A scholar might spend his morning translating a Greek philosophical text, his afternoon conducting an astronomical observation, and his evening debating the nature of numbers with a colleague. This interdisciplinary approach, where knowledge was seen as a unified whole, led to incredible breakthroughs. The institution embodied the idea that all knowledge, whether from Greece, India, or Persia, was valuable and part of a single human quest for understanding. The legacy of the House of Wisdom is immense. It served as a model for universities and research centers for centuries to come. It established a tradition of scholarship based on evidence, reason, and open debate. The knowledge that was preserved, refined, and created within its walls would eventually flow out to the rest of the world, including Europe. The House of Wisdom was not just a building filled with books. It was a living, breathing testament to the power of human curiosity and the importance of investing in knowledge. It was a beacon of light whose influence would shine for centuries, illuminating the path for future generations of thinkers and scientists. The Islamic Golden Age was populated by brilliant individuals whose names should be as famous as those of Galileo or Newton. One such giant was Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi, a Persian mathematician who worked at the House of Wisdom in the 9th century. It is from the title of his most famous book, Al-Jabr, that we get the word algebra. He developed systematic methods for solving linear and quadratic equations, effectively giving birth to a whole new branch of mathematics. Furthermore, his work on Indian numerals was instrumental in popularizing the decimal point system and the use of zero in the Arab world and eventually in Europe. His name even gave us the word algorithm. In the field of medicine, the Persian physician Ibn Sina, known in the West as Avicenna, was a towering figure. His monumental encyclopedia, the Canon of Medicine, was a comprehensive summary of all known medical knowledge of his time, from the ancient Greeks to his own original discoveries. The book was so thorough and so well organized that it became the standard medical textbook in Europe for over 600 years. Avicenna identified diseases like meningitis, described the contagious nature of tuberculosis, and detailed the functions of the heart valves. He was a true polymath, also writing extensively on philosophy, astronomy, and logic, really embodying the era's ideal of a wide-ranging intellect. Another remarkable mind was Ibn al-Haytham, known in the West as Al-Hazan. He is often called the father of modern optics. Living in Cairo around the year 1000, he conducted brilliant experiments to understand how vision works. At the time, most people, including the ancient Greeks, believed that our eyes sent out rays that allowed us to see. Ibn al-Haytham proved this wrong. Through ingenious experiments using a dark room, a camera obscura, he demonstrated that light travels from an object into the eye. This was a revolutionary idea and a foundational moment for the scientific method, emphasizing the importance of experimentation and observation over pure reason. His work laid the groundwork for the development of cameras and telescopes. In philosophy, Ibn Rushd, or Averroes, a 12th century scholar from Cordoba in Islamic Spain, played a pivotal role. He wrote extensive commentaries on the works of the Greek philosopher Aristotle, whose writings had been largely forgotten in Western Europe. Ibn Rushd argued passionately that faith and reason were not in conflict, but were two different paths to the same truth. His thoughtful analysis reintroduced Aristotle's logic and scientific thinking to European scholars. His work was hugely influential, sparking a renewed interest in philosophy and science in Europe, and helping to lay the intellectual foundations for the Renaissance and the Age of Enlightenment. These figures are just a few examples of the many brilliant minds who lit up the Golden Age. The incredible knowledge gathered and created in the Islamic world did not remain isolated. It began to flow into Europe through several important channels, sparking a new wave of learning. One of the main points of contact was Islamic Spain, known as Al-Andalus. For centuries, cities like Cordoba, Toledo, and Granada were vibrant centers where Muslims, Christians, and Jews lived and worked together. Cordoba in the 10th century was the largest city in Europe, with a massive library, street lighting, and public baths at a time when London and Paris were little more than small, muddy towns. European scholars flocked to these cities, eager to learn from their Muslim counterparts. After Christian kingdoms began to reconquer Spain, they discovered the vast intellectual treasures left behind in the libraries of cities like Toledo. In the 12th century, Toledo became a major center for translation, but this time the flow of knowledge was reversed. Scholars from all over Europe came to Toledo to translate the great Arabic works of science, medicine, and philosophy into Latin, the language of scholarship in Europe. They translated the works of Al-Khwarizmi, Ibn Sina, and Ibn Rushd, along with the very Greek texts that Arab scholars had saved centuries earlier. This massive translation effort was like opening a window in a dark room, letting in a flood of light. Another important route for the transmission of knowledge was through Sicily and southern Italy. These regions had been under Arab rule and, like Spain, had become a melting pot of cultures. Even after being conquered by the Normans, the influence of Arabic science and culture remained strong. Scholars at the court of Frederick II in Sicily, for example, continued the tradition of translating Arabic texts and fostering scientific inquiry. Additionally, trade routes across the Mediterranean and the Crusades, despite being periods of conflict, also served as conduits for the exchange of ideas, technologies, and goods between the East and the West. European traders and knights returned home with not just silks and spices, but also with new ideas. The impact of this flood of new knowledge on Europe was profound. The introduction of Arabic numerals and algebra revolutionized commerce and science. The medical texts of Ibn Sina dramatically improved healthcare and medical education. The philosophical works of Ibn Rushd challenged European thinkers to reconcile faith with reason, sparking intense intellectual debates that would shape the future of Western thought. Essentially, the knowledge from the Islamic world provided the essential fuel for the European intellectual awakening. It helped to build the foundations for the Renaissance, the Scientific Revolution, and the Enlightenment, changing the course of Western history forever. The influence of Islamic civilization on the West was not limited to science and philosophy. It can also be seen and felt in the realms of art, architecture, and even language. The artistic traditions that flourished during the Golden Age were characterized by their intricate beauty and mathematical precision. Because the depiction of human figures was often discouraged in religious contexts, artists mastered complex geometric patterns, flowing calligraphy, and stylized plant motifs known as arabesques. This distinctive style created a sense of infinite, ordered beauty that was meant to reflect the perfection and unity of the divine. This artistry found its way into textiles, ceramics, metalwork, and the stunning decoration of buildings. This architectural and artistic influence traveled into Europe, especially through Spain and Sicily. The magnificent mosques and palaces of Al-Andalus, such as the Great Mosque of Córdoba and the Alhambra Palace in Granada, left a lasting impression on European builders. Features like pointed arches, ribbed vaults, and ornate tilework began to appear in European architecture. The pointed arch, for example, which was a hallmark of Islamic architecture, was stronger and more flexible than the rounded Roman arch. Its adoption in Europe was a key innovation that made the soaring cathedrals of the Gothic style possible. This is a clear example of a practical, beautiful idea crossing cultural boundaries. Beyond grand buildings, the influence can be seen in the smaller details of everyday life. The rich textiles of the Islamic world, like silks and carpets, were highly prized in Europe and brought with them new patterns and designs. The art of lusterware, a type of pottery with a metallic sheen, was developed in the Middle East and later adopted by potters in Spain and Italy. Even music was touched by this exchange. The lute, a forerunner of the guitar, is derived from the Arabic instrument called the oud. This cultural borrowing enriched European art and design, adding new layers of complexity and beauty that are still appreciated today. Our language itself carries the echoes of this history. Hundreds of English words have their roots in Arabic, often arriving through Spanish or French. Many of these words are related to science, trade, and luxury goods, which shows the areas where the Islamic world excelled. Words like algebra, algorithm, alchemy, and alkali all come from Arabic scientific terms. Everyday words like sugar, cotton, sofa, carafe, and magazine also have Arabic origins. Even the word checkmate in chess comes from the Persian phrase shamat, meaning the king is dead, which entered Europe via the Arab world. These words are like tiny fossils, preserving a history of cultural connection. The story of Muslim contributions to the world did not end with the Golden Age. The tradition of innovation, creativity, and intellectual pursuit has continued into the modern era, with Muslims making significant impacts in virtually every field imaginable. In the world of science and technology, individuals of Muslim heritage stand at the forefront of discovery. For example, the Egyptian-American chemist Ahmed Zewail won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1999 for his pioneering work in femtochemistry, which allows us to observe chemical reactions as they happen in incredibly short timescales. His work opened up a whole new field of science, with applications in medicine and materials science. In the fields of business and architecture, the impact is equally visible. Muslims have founded and led major global companies, contributing to economic growth and innovation. In architecture, figures like the late Zaha Hadid, a British Iraqi architect, completely reshaped our ideas of what a building can be. She was the first woman to receive the Pritzker Architecture Prize, often called the Nobel Prize of Architecture. Her futuristic flowing designs can be seen in major cities around the world, from the London Aquatics Centre to the Guangzhou Opera House in China. Her work is a powerful modern example of the fusion of art, mathematics, and bold imagination that characterized the Golden Age. The arts and literature have also been enriched by modern Muslim voices. Authors, filmmakers, and artists have shared their unique perspectives, telling stories that bridge cultures and challenge stereotypes. Writers like Elif Shafak and Mohsin Hamid have gained international acclaim for their novels, which explore complex themes of identity, migration, and tradition in the modern world. In music, artists from Sami Yusuf to Yuna have brought sounds inspired by their heritage to a global audience, creating new fusions that resonate with people from all backgrounds. These creative individuals are building on a long history of storytelling and artistic expression, making the world's cultural landscape more vibrant and diverse. These modern trailblazers are walking in the footsteps of the great thinkers of the past, like Al-Khwarizmi and Ibn Sina. They demonstrate that the spirit of inquiry, creativity, and the desire to contribute to human progress are alive and well within Muslim communities around the world. From developing life-saving vaccines to designing sustainable cities to writing prize-winning novels, Muslims continue to be an integral part of our shared global story of advancement. Their contributions are not separate from the story of the West, but but are woven directly into the fabric of modern multicultural societies, enriching them in countless ways. Reflecting on this long historical journey, from the House of Wisdom in Baghdad to the science labs and art studios of today, a clear and powerful pattern emerges. It is the story of an unbroken thread of human curiosity and collaboration. The contributions of the Islamic Golden Age were not a separate, isolated event, but a vital link in the chain of global progress. The scholars of that era acted as crucial bridges, saving the wisdom of the ancient world and then building upon it with their own brilliant innovations. They held the torch of knowledge aloft during a time when it had dimmed elsewhere, ensuring its light would be passed on to future generations. The knowledge they nurtured eventually flowed back into Europe, providing the intellectual nutrients that helped the Renaissance to blossom and the scientific revolution to take flight. The foundations of modern mathematics, medicine, astronomy, and chemistry were profoundly shaped by the discoveries made in Arabic. When we look at the world today, at our numbers, our hospitals, our universities, and even the stars we chart, we are seeing the legacy of this incredible period of history. It is a shared heritage, a testament to the fact that great civilizations do not rise in a vacuum, but are built upon the exchange of ideas with others. This history carries an important lesson for us in the 21st century. In a world that can sometimes feel divided, the story of the Islamic Golden Age reminds us of our profound interconnectedness. It shows that some of humanity's greatest achievements have come from moments of cultural cross-pollination, when people of different faiths and backgrounds came together in a shared pursuit of knowledge. It challenges the simplistic narrative of a clash of civilizations, and instead presents a more accurate and hopeful picture of a confluence of civilizations, where ideas flow like rivers, merging to create something greater than the sum of their parts. The thread of discovery continues to be woven today. Muslims around the world are still contributing to every aspect of human endeavor, from science and technology to art and culture. Their work enriches our global society and pushes the boundaries of human knowledge ever further. By understanding and celebrating this long and continuing history of contribution, we not only gain a more accurate picture of the past, but we also build a stronger foundation for a future of mutual respect and shared progress. The quest for knowledge is a journey that belongs to all of humanity, and the contributions from the Muslim world have been, and continue to be, an essential and brilliant part of that shared story.